My wife secretly sold our family home for $400, $0 behind my back while I was abroad. Then her lawyer claimed I owed her $150, $0 in false debts. Now she's threatening to take everything, including our kids' college fund. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy to get blindsided like this. Honestly, I thought I knew everything about my wife, Lisa. We'd been married for 10 years, had 2 kids, a nice house, good jobs. On the surface, everything looked perfect. But then I found out she was cheating on me, and not just that. She'd been secretly screwing around with her boss, Mark, for months. The kicker. She sold our family home behind my back while I was abroad for a business trip, and she pocketed $400, $0 from it. I came back from an overseas trip expecting to see my family, maybe plan a vacation, and instead I walked into a nightmare. The first sign something was wrong was when I noticed her acting weird. Lisa had always been a little high maintenance, but lately she was more distant, avoiding my calls, canceling dinner plans. She'd suddenly become obsessed with her phone, hiding it whenever I came into the room. Small stuff at first. She'd say she was dealing with work stress or that she was just tired. But then I started noticing odd things. Her phone bill spiked, and there were texts from a number I didn't recognize. When I asked her about it, she'd brush me off, say it was just work stuff or her friend from college. One day, I was supposed to meet her for dinner after work, but she canceled at the last minute. Instead of being annoyed, I decided to check her phone out of curiosity. I knew it was wrong, but I was desperate for answers. I unlocked it, and what I saw made my stomach drop. There were dozens of messages between her and Mark, flirty, suggestive, talking about their plans to meet up. There were even explicit sex messages. That was the moment I realized she'd been lying to my face for months. She'd been screwing around right under my nose. While I was away working hard to provide for our family, I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. The betrayal cut so deep I couldn't breathe. I confronted her that night. I showed her the messages and her face went pale. At first, she spun some ridiculous story about how it was just a fling, just sex, that it didn't mean anything. She said Mark was just a bad influence, and she was sorry she didn't tell me earlier. But I knew better. There was no way she'd been sneaking around with him for months without me catching on. And then I found out about the house, how she had secretly sold it behind my back while I was out of the country without telling me. She claimed she did it to save us from foreclosure, because she said I was neglecting the family financially, which was a lie. I had the papers in my hands and I saw the transfer. She'd gotten $400, $0 from the sale, and I had no clue. The whole thing was a whirlwind. I asked her how she could do this, how she could betray me and our kids like that. She looked me straight in the eyes and lied some more, saying she was doing what was best for the family and that I was too busy with work to notice what was going on. That was a total load of crap. I was so furious I could barely speak. I felt like I was living in some twisted nightmare. How could she sell our home, the place we built memories in, and hide it from me? How could she cheat on me, then lie about everything? It was like I didn't even know who she was anymore. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind kept circling back to the house, the money, the lies. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and heartbroken all at once. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how my wife could be so manipulative and callous. I thought about the kids. What kind of future are they facing now? I was supposed to be the protector, the provider, and suddenly I was just a pawn in her game. The worst part. She was threatening me with legal action, claiming I owed her $150, $0 in false debts, and that she'd take everything. Our savings, the kids' college fund, everything. I felt helpless, but I also knew I had to do something. I couldn't just let her walk all over me and destroy what little stability we had left. That's when I started planning what to do next. After I got over the initial shock, I started digging into everything I could find. I needed to understand just how deep her betrayal went. I had her phone, her emails, access to the bank accounts. What I uncovered made my stomach churn even more. She had been funneling money into secret accounts, probably to cover her tracks. The house sale, she'd arranged it all behind my back, had a lawyer draw up the paperwork, and had already spent some of the money. She even had the audacity to tell her lawyer I owed her money, $150 in false debts, she claimed. That was a blatant lie. I never owed her a penny. That woman was a master manipulator, and her lawyer was just another pawn. I felt like I was losing grip on everything I'd built. I thought I was the one working hard, providing for the family, making sacrifices. Turns out, she'd been planning this for months. The house was our biggest asset, and she sold it without telling me. I found out about the sale from a real estate agent I hired to track the property. It was listed and sold in less than a week, completely under the radar. The money was in her account, and she was already spending it on herself, apparently. She bought new designer clothes, gone on a shopping spree, and even booked a vacation for herself and Mark. That's when I knew she'd been cheating and planning her escape at the same time. But what really broke me was when I found the email trail between her and her lawyer. She had instructed him to protect her interests and to make sure I was kept in the dark. I saw the legal documents. She transferred ownership of the house, and the lawyer filed it without my signature, all while I was abroad working my ass off. I felt like a complete fool. How could I have missed all these signs? How could she do this to me? To our kids? The anger started boiling inside me. I wanted to tear her apart, but I knew I had to stay calm. I had to think. I started to realize that her lies went way beyond just the house and the affair. She was trying to manipulate the entire situation, paint herself as the victim, and make me look like the bad guy. She claimed I was neglecting her, that I owed her money, that she was just trying to save us from financial ruin. But the truth was, she was the one who was reckless, selling the house, screwing around, lying to my face. The more I uncovered, the more I saw her true character. I couldn't believe I married someone capable of this level of deception and betrayal. It made me question everything I thought I knew about her. Meanwhile, she kept pushing her version of the story, saying I was a terrible husband, that I didn't care about the family, that I was too busy with work to notice what she was going through. She played the victim, crying, pretending she was overwhelmed, that she didn't know how to handle everything. But I knew better now. I knew she was just good at hiding her true self. I felt betrayed, angry, and exhausted. I was emotionally drained, but I also knew I couldn't let her get away with this. I had to figure out my next move. I needed a plan to protect myself and our kids from whatever she was planning next. That's when I started talking to a lawyer of my own. I wanted to know my rights, how much of the money she had taken, and what legal steps I could take to stop her from draining everything. I also started looking into how I could get custody of the kids if it came to that. I knew she'd try to turn them against me, especially with all the lies she'd been spreading. I had to prepare for the worst. I couldn't trust her anymore, and I definitely couldn't trust what she was saying. The truth was, I was furious, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I realized I was going to have to fight for what was left of my life, my family, and my dignity. And I was ready to do whatever it took. By now, I was fully immersed in trying to piece everything together. The more I learned, the clearer it became that Lisa had been planning this for months, maybe longer. I found bank statements showing her funneling money into secret accounts, probably to fund her escape. Her phone was filled with messages, flirty texts with Mark, planning secret meetups, even explicit sex talk. That was the moment I knew she'd been cheating on me for a long time. It wasn't just a fling, it was a full-blown affair, and she'd been lying to my face the entire time. I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, the way she lied so convincingly. I felt so betrayed, so stupid for not seeing it earlier. I started questioning everything about our marriage, about her loyalty, about the woman I thought I knew. I was furious, but mostly I was heartbroken. How could she do this? How could she sell our house behind my back while I was abroad, working to give us a better future? It was like she had been planning her escape for months, and I was just a pawn in her game. I remember the exact moment I decided I had to confront her again. I sat her down, looked her right in the eyes, and told her I knew everything. I told her. I had seen the messages, the bank transfers, the legal documents. Her face twisted, and she started to lie again, spinning some story about how she was just trying to protect the family from financial ruin, how I was neglecting her and the kids. She claimed the house was a burden, that she was saving us from foreclosure. But I knew better. I had the proof that she'd secretly sold it, that she'd taken the money and was spending it on herself. She tried to gaslight me, saying I was paranoid, that I was overreacting. She even accused me of cheating, claiming I was just jealous because I was never around. That was her favorite line, blame me for everything. But I wasn't falling for it anymore. I told her I was done with the lies, that I was going to get to the bottom of it, no matter what. I wanted her to understand that I wasn't going to be played like some fool. I needed to protect my kids, my future, and myself. That night I started making plans. I contacted a lawyer, the best one I could find, and laid out everything I had uncovered. I wanted to know what legal options I had to stop her from taking more of our money, to freeze her accounts if necessary, and to secure custody of the kids if it came down to that. I also started gathering evidence, screenshots of the messages, copies of the legal documents, bank statements. I knew she'd try to spin it all, make me look like the bad guy, but I had to be prepared. I had to fight for what was rightfully mine and for the future of my children. Meanwhile, Lisa kept up her act, pretending to be the victim, crying about how hard everything was, how she was just trying to do what's best. She even told mutual friends I was an absent father, that I didn't care about the family. That was so far from the truth it made me sick. I spent the next few days trying to stay calm, but inside I was boiling. My trust was shattered, my marriage was over, and I knew I had to brace myself for whatever she might do next. She was a master manipulator, and I had to be just as clever to outsmart her. All I kept thinking about was the kids. I didn't want them caught in the middle of this mess, but I knew Lisa would try to turn them against me. She always had a way with words, twisting things around to make herself look innocent. I was terrified she'd try to take everything, our savings, the college fund, even the little things that mattered to the kids. I had to act fast. I had to protect what was left of our family, even if that meant fighting dirty or going to court. I couldn't let her destroy everything we'd built. Not without a fight. The days that followed were a blur of legal consultations, secret investigations, and trying to keep my emotions in check. I felt like I was walking on a tightrope, knowing that at any moment Lisa might do something even more destructive. I had no doubt she'd try to spin this to her advantage. Her lies were so convincing, I sometimes wondered if I was losing my mind. But I had the evidence now, screenshots, bank statements, the legal documents, and I was determined to use them. I remember sitting in my lawyer's office, going over every detail. She told me I had a solid case to contest the house sale and to freeze her accounts to prevent her from draining any more money. She also warned me that Lisa might try to claim I owed her money, that she'd file false debts to manipulate the court. That's when I realized I had to be even more vigilant. I started gathering witnesses, friends and neighbors who knew about Lisa's secret meetings, her lies, her manipulations. I wanted everything documented, ready for whatever legal battle was coming. Meanwhile, Lisa was still pretending to be the victim. She'd call me, crying, claiming I was ruining her life, accusing me of cheating or neglecting the family. She even told mutual friends I was an unfit father, which made me furious. I knew her game. She was trying to turn everyone against me, to make herself look innocent while she ran off with the money and her lover. I refused to let her manipulate me or others. I stayed composed, focused on the facts, and kept my cool around the kids. I didn't want to give her any ammunition to use against me. One particularly shocking moment came when I found out she'd already moved in with Mark. She'd been staying at his place, and I saw photos of her there, wearing new designer clothes, smiling like she was the happiest woman alive. Meanwhile, I was stuck trying to hold everything together, feeling like a complete failure. I wondered how someone I loved could betray me so thoroughly. How could she just walk out of our lives, sell our home, lie to everyone, and then turn around and act like she was the victim? It was surreal. I also discovered she'd been secretly withdrawing money from our joint accounts, hiding some of it in offshore accounts. She'd been planning this for months, maybe even longer. The house sale was just the tip of the iceberg. It wasn't just about the house or the affair. It was about total betrayal, a calculated attempt to wipe out everything I'd worked for. And I couldn't let her get away with it. I knew I had to fight hard to stand my ground and to protect what remained of my family. Every time I thought about the kids, I felt a mix of rage and sadness. I didn't want them to grow up in a broken home, but I also knew Lisa's lies could ruin everything if I didn't act fast. I started preparing for a custody battle, gathering evidence of her neglect and her manipulations. I knew she'd try to turn the court against me just like she was trying to turn everyone else. But I had my proof, and I was ready to fight for my rights as a father. Deep down, I felt exhausted. Betrayal does that to a person. It drains you, makes you question everything. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I realized I had to be smart, patient, and relentless. Lisa wasn't going to give up her plans easily, but neither was I. I was determined to reclaim what was mine, to stop her from destroying our lives completely. I knew this was just the beginning of a long, ugly fight, but I was ready for it. I had to be. The legal battle dragged on for weeks, and each day brought new surprises. Lisa was doing everything she could to manipulate the system, filing false claims, accusing me of abuse, trying to turn the kids against me. She even hired her own lawyer who was more than happy to play along with her games. I kept my head down, trusted my lawyer, and stayed focused on gathering every piece of evidence I could. The more I uncovered, the more I realized how calculated Lisa's moves were. She was trying to destroy me, to erase me from our children's lives, all while pretending to be the innocent victim. One day, I received a court summons. Lisa had filed for full custody, claiming I was an unfit parent because I supposedly abandoned the family emotionally. The irony was sickening. I knew she'd say anything to win, no matter how false or cruel. I prepared my case meticulously, collecting messages from friends and neighbors who could attest to my character and stability. I also documented her reckless spending, her lies, her affair, and her secret sale of the house. I wanted the court to see the full picture, that she was the one who had betrayed everything, not me. The custody hearing was intense. Lisa sat there, cold and calculating, trying to paint herself as the perfect mother. She even brought in fake tears, claiming I was neglectful and absent. I stood my ground, calmly presenting all my evidence, showing her lies, exposing her manipulations. I could see the judge was skeptical. Lisa's performance was good, but my evidence was stronger. I felt a flicker of hope that justice might be served. Meanwhile, she kept threatening to take everything: our savings, the kids' college fund, even the small inheritance I had saved for them. She believed she could get away with everything because she was good at lying and manipulating. But I wasn't about to let her destroy my future or my kids' future without a fight. I hired a forensic accountant to track her hidden accounts, and I worked with my lawyer to prepare for a long court fight. I knew Lisa was relentless, but I was equally determined to protect what was left of my family. In the quiet moments, I'd sit alone and reflect on everything that had happened. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry, but I also knew that I had to stay strong for my kids, for myself. I realized that this was more than just a fight over money or custody. It was a battle for my dignity, my integrity, and my future. I couldn't let her win. I had to keep fighting, no matter how hard it got. Because if I didn't, I'd lose everything I cared about: my home, my family, my life. And I wasn't about to let her take that from me without a fight. The court date finally came, and I was nervous but ready. I knew Lisa would do everything to spin her lies, but I had the truth on my side. My lawyer presented every piece of evidence: texts, bank statements, the legal documents proving she sold the house behind my back and secretly transferred ownership. I testified about her affair with Mark, about how she manipulated everyone around her, and about her reckless spending spree funded by the money from our home. The courtroom was tense, and I could see Lisa's lawyer scrambling to undermine my case, but I held my ground. When the judge finally made his ruling, it was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. He ordered Lisa to return the house or compensate me financially, and he granted me primary custody of the kids, citing her manipulative behavior and reckless financial decisions as reasons. The judge also ordered her to pay back the stolen money and to stay away from the offshore accounts she'd hidden. It wasn't a perfect victory, but it was enough to start rebuilding what she had tried to destroy. In the aftermath, Lisa's threats didn't stop immediately, but I knew she was losing her grip. She tried to appeal to manipulate the system further, but her lies had been exposed too thoroughly. Slowly, she withdrew from our lives, and the court enforced the custody arrangements. The kids were confused at first, but I made sure they knew I loved them and was there for them. I stayed strong for their sake, and in time, the pain of betrayal started to fade. Looking back, I learned a lot from this nightmare. I learned that trust is fragile, and sometimes the person you think you know best can turn out to be someone else entirely. I learned that revenge isn't about sinking to their level, but about standing up for yourself and your family. Most importantly, I learned that even when everything falls apart, you can find the strength to rebuild if you're willing to fight for it. Now, I'm focused on moving forward. The house is ours again, and I'm working on healing the wounds Lisa left behind. I still worry about the future, but I know I'll be okay. The biggest lesson I can share is this: don't ever ignore the signs of betrayal, and if someone shows their true colors, don't be afraid to fight for what's right. Because in the end, integrity and loyalty matter more than anything. And no matter how much someone tries to destroy you, there's always a way to stand tall and reclaim your life.